And we are continuing to follow the impact following the announcement that Knoxville McKay's is going to be closing. Now, the union representing McKay's employees, they're filing a complaint. Communications Workers of America. They filed a complaint with the federal government accusing the bookstore of shutting down to avoid negotiations with unionized employees. Now, in 2025, the National Labor Board legitimized multiple allegations saying that the store was not bargaining in good faith with the union. Those cases are still open. Now, the president of the CWA's local chapter says, quote, McKay's decision to shut down rather than negotiate with their workers is a disgusting attempt to bust the union. We will pursue McKay's and its owners to the end of the earth in our fight for justice for workers and their loyal customers. Now, we did reach out to McKay's for comment. Now, they say the union activity did not factor into the decision to sell the property, adding that the store respects its employees' rights to organize, and it's committed to complying with all labor laws. Now, McKay's also says the timing of the sale was based solely on the business and property considerations that have been developing over several years.